I'm going to use the Daiichi 220 size 10 for this pattern. Got some nice olive marabou and some ultra thread olive 210. Alright, we're just going to adjust that hook real quick. We're going to use some 020 lead. I like to just try to utilize as much of it as I can and try not to waste it, but somewhere between 10 and 20 wraps is sufficient. Just leave enough up by that head so we can taper that up later on. And then I'll clean these wraps up right here too. And we'll just kind of cover this up a little bit. Make sure it's tight into place. You can build the whole thing and get it all tapered up if you want, however pretty you want it to be. It's not going to matter much. I'm going to tie in this olive marabou for the tail. We'll measure that. You'll see it's about 1 times the hook length. Just want to catch it, get up under there, and then we'll pull that and make sure to get up in front of it too. We'll wrap it a few more times. Okay, I'll give that a little trim. Go ahead and wrap it till this is about equal with the hook shank. We're going to use some of this Crystal Flash UV tan. I like to just use 1 strand and just fold it in half like so. And you can keep cutting smaller pieces off. This one started out already as a little bit stubby, but I like to have 3 or 4 of those in the tail like that. Adding a couple more. I like to rotate the fly and make sure that they're on both sides of it. This kind of emulates the scales in the tail. I'm just going to even this out just a little bit. We got a little bit chunky right there, but not too bad for a minnow pattern. And this is the underbelly. Just going to make a nice little dubbing loop right here. A couple over and a couple back around. Then we'll just wrap it back to that point and then come back up here. I like to hook mine on over that screw and then put my dubbing loop twister and hook it on there. I also, before I get too far into the fly, I like to just throw a whip finish or a half hitch right there, whatever you can do. Get that thread out of the way. Now you can kind of see what we got going on there. We're going to load up this this dubbing loop here and just kind of get that position somewhat close. Give her a little spin. I'm just going to brush some of this out. You can use whatever you have. Whatever tool works that makes it look good and nice and stringy. And then I like to pull it all off to one side like that. Okay, now we're just going to kind of get this wrapped up in here. And as we start wrapping that body, we're just going to kind of keep pulling it back a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to come around that, in front of it, and around it, and back in front of it. Cut that. We're going to whip finish. Throw a couple of whip finishes on there. Don't want to let it get too bulky up by the head. You can even pull on that and make sure you have a little bit of a gap there. And then we're going to give it a little bit of a brush. Just to thin that area down up here in the front. Okay. Next we're going to use some ice dub olive brown. I'm just going to pull that material till it gets long, just like when you prep for a dubbing loop. So we can put that up around that hook and then pull that tight. Okay, and the next step is to tighten a thread around that. Let's go ahead and do that. Take this, wrap it around, and you can even get up under here a little bit. If it starts to get away from you, that's okay. We're just trying to get some of that color coming across the top. You can see it kind of starts to form that minnow color, that kind of minnow pattern type color. Okay. Now I put a couple of wraps to bring this back here into this area right here. That's because we're going to use this root beer. This stuff, I call it trout crack. So what we're going to do is kind of the same thing. Fold that up around the front. Pull up on it like that. Get it to a spot where we can tie it in. You want to make sure that it gets tied in nice and tight, because that needs to be like the top of the fly. So that should come down kind of like that. And you should have something that looks something similar to that. Now we're going to give this a trim.